Hello there, this is Mr. Dunaway, and this is Chapter 3, Section 7, Solving Absolute Value Equations, page 207. Make sure you hit the pause button as you go through this. This is an interesting one, and you should, if you want to do well in this, plan to rewatch it or hit pause and go back and watch the things that don't make sense to you, because it's kind of strange, especially when we get into inequalities, which we're not going to do in this video. I decided to break it up into a couple of days. I think you'll do better. I want you to understand it by the time we're done with it. I didn't want to go too fast to make sure you grasp it. So if you have not written down the topic, please do that. You should have in front of you the template for notes. Also put your name on your paper and you'll be ready to go if you do that. And get the date on there as well. And your first note that you need to have is in the main idea area over here. It also can be found on page 207. Solve and graph this strange looking problem, the absolute value of x plus 2 equals 9, and copy it in the work area in the middle. Like I said, hit pause as you go if needed. And let me give you the first note that you'll need to do. I did a little smart trick over here, cheated just a little bit. Let me get this changed here. There we go. All right. In dealing with this problem, the absolute value of x is equal to 2. You want to begin this problem by isolating the absolute value part. Okay, so we want to isolate whatever the absolute value is. Now that's something that you'll need to remember. Notice in this particular problem I have this plus 2. So we have to subtract the 2 because it's not within the absolute value. Okay, so you always will do that first. You'll get rid of anything that's not in the absolute value. So I'm going to get rid of this plus 2 first. Right, those are words to live by with absolute value problems. You have to kind of isolate the absolute value, then you deal with it, because something different happens here, for lack of better words. So here's what I've come down to. I subtracted 2 from both sides, and I get the absolute value of x is equal to 7. Okay. Well, I have the absolute value of x is equal to 7, and here's what we now need to do with that. All right, we need to do this. We need to consider what values are true for x. Okay, so get that down in your notes as well. Consider what values are true for x. All right, well, as I think about this problem, okay, let's put a question mark here. Could x equal 7 and make that true? Well, let's look at it. If the absolute value of 7, if I asked you to solve that question, what would you put here? Hopefully 7, and that's true. Okay, so we found one solution that x could be 7. All right, but is there another one? Is there another way to make it true? What if I said negative 7? And I asked you to give me that value. What is the absolute value of negative 7? Hopefully you said positive 7, because that's true. So here's the conclusion. The conclusion is that x could equal 7, or x could equal negative 7. Okay, so notice what happened. Notice the context of how I thought there. I thought what values could make that true. That's what's really happening when we solve these problems. When you take that absolute value, you've got a positive and a negative solution possibility there. So here's the conclusion. Now this is some algebra speak for you. I think it's valuable for us to look at this and see if we can dissect what they're trying to tell you. Okay, that's conclusion. I excuse my messy S there. Conclusion. In conclusion, here's what we find, okay, that let's say that you have if the absolute value of some number like a is equal to b, okay, absolute value of a is equal to b, and I know that b is greater than 0. Okay, if I know that b is greater than 0, then here's what I can say. All right, now that's just like the problem up here, by the way. Absolute value of something, that number is greater than 0 right there. If that's the case, then I can say, then a, now notice there's no absolute value there. I've taken the absolute value of a, I've taken the absolute value part away. Okay, so I know that a could be b, but I also know that a could also be negative b. All right, there's two solutions. And almost every time you take the absolute value of a number, you'd have two solutions. The only exception would be 0. 0 only has one absolute value, that's 0, because it's 0 away from 0. That makes sense. Okay, so put a dotted line there. That's the basis of what this lesson is about. And you have to understand those facts in order to make the rest of everything make sense for us as it gets a little bit more peculiar for you as we go. So under the dotted line there, would you please put this next example? You don't have to keep writing page 207 down unless you want to. It's going to go on to page 208 actually, but you kind of get the point. Hopefully you could find it. Let's look at what happens here if I have this question. The absolute value of x plus 12 is equal to 10. Okay, let's get rid of it. Remember what we said in the first problem is that we have to get rid of this plus 12, so I'm going to add negative 12. Alright, so to solve it, if you want to note here, you're going to say add minus 12. That cancels that out. 10 plus negative 12 is negative 2, and we come up with the absolute value of x is equal to negative 2. Alright, let's think about that. Absolute value of x is equal to negative 2. So you're asking yourself, what number, when you take the absolute value, can I just do this? The absolute value equals negative 2. Let's see, could the absolute value of negative 2, what does that equal to? That's 2. So sad face, not a solution. How about the absolute value of 2? The absolute value of 2 is also 2. Sad face, no, not a solution. So what's the answer? The answer is there is no solution. You see, if you try to take the absolute value of a number, what do you always have to get? You have to get a positive. Alright, so here it is. Alright, you cannot take, I'll say, how about ABS, absolute value, and get a negative. Can't do that. Cannot take the absolute value of something and get a negative number. All right, so there it is. The answer, and this is important that you say this if you're on a test or a quiz, the answer is no solution because you can't have absolute value and get a negative number right there. Okay? So hopefully that makes sense to you. If it doesn't, go back and watch the video again a little bit later. All right, I'm at a little over 8 minutes here, and I think I'd be more comfortable if I stopped here and started another video for the next couple of questions. So get that down, and then make sure you watch the second video about this when you have time before tomorrow. Hopefully. See ya.